Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Reverse Sweep. I'm joined by my co-host Patrick Price, and today we also are missing out James. Unfortunately, he's very sick, so he's not going to be here. But make sure you guys go show him some love and hope he feels better. Anyways, Pat, today is going to be our first episode of the Stage 3 qualifiers. It was an interesting break that we had in between qualifiers. We had quite a few roster changes, some on the lower end of the spectrum, and then one in particular at the top end with the OpTic change that nobody saw coming after a fourth place finish at Major 2. But before we actually dive into today's topics, we actually hit that CTA, not the CTA. We actually hit the subscriber mark, Pat. So for those of the viewers that weren't here for the first couple episodes, what does that entail?
Chris, that means they win a jersey. I had two sizes and the option to obviously sign it if the winner wants it. But yeah, you're right. We hit the sub goal, which is huge. The big thing here is now you guys got to get entered for the giveaway. So how are we going to do that? Be subscribed. Most important, always. You don't miss an episode. Come on. You already know this. But we want you to like this video and then leave a comment down below on this video giving us either your favorite memory of myself or your favorite reverse sweep memory.
And also comment what you're going to do with the jersey, because if I see somebody like taking a piss on it or burning it, then they got my vote.
We got their address though, so I'm gonna have to hunt them down. They're giving out the address, But yeah, no, make sure if you do leave a comment, you are interested in the giveaway, make it easy. Just throw your Twitter tag in the comment. That way it's super easy. If you do win, we can reach out to you, get your shipping info, and things like that. We'll announce that winner next episode. James will respond to the winner in the comment when we pick, and obviously we'll announce next week. So, but yeah, Chris, going into some of the things for this weekend, this OpTic roster change, man, where did this come from? What do you think about it? How you feeling about it? It's an interesting one for me.
I just don't think we've seen a lot of this happen in the Call of Duty scene. At least so for those of you guys that haven't been in the loop, which I'm sure most of you guys have if you're watching the reverse sweep, Dan Ghosty basically just got picked up out of nowhere by OpTic. He is going to be replacing iLLeY on the starting roster. And we actually did get a sneak peek of him, in his first match of the CDL, in which they went last map with the LA Guerrillas. But Dan, overall, I think he had a pretty solid series. Huke had an insane series, which we'll talk about here in a second. But in terms of the OpTic roster change, where did it come from? I'll tell you what it was. It was definitely internal issues. I don't think it mainly had to do with the performance that iLLeY was having, because I don't think his stats were incredibly bad, but I feel like OpTic is one of those teams that's always looking to win, and they probably just didn't feel like they had like what it took to like at least consistently or at least make it to those finals, and they were really lacking in the response. So now on the Dan side of things, what does he bring to the table? This guy in Challengers at least was a superstar. Guy had the best stats in all of Challengers Elite in North America. He not only got second in that tournament, in which he basically made a makeshift roster on Decimate Gaming with the likes of Yuli, Too Real, and Felony, but he got first place at the Boston Open in the Challengers pit. So this guy, literally, he was by far and wide the best statistical player in Challengers. By far, Pat.
Yeah, and I mean, Doug was gassing him up, right? Doug teamed with him last year, lived with him for most of the year. Doug was always saying like he thinks that this Ghosty kid's going to be next up. So it was a bold move from OpTic for sure. Granted, we've only seen one game. I would argue it's probably paying off so far, but it's one game. But for me, the big thing is like, one, how is this going to impact the other players on the team, right? Like in their one game, we did see Dashy not play so well, but Huke stepped up. So I don't know if we got like the best showing of what this roster will really look like when everyone's playing to their norm. And two, it doesn't impact any game modes. I know you mentioned like Ghosty's a kind of high IQ player, is very smart. I'm wondering if it's going to how it's going to change their S&D, who snipes now, right? Ghosty didn't want to tell us that. Some things like that we still need to kind of find out and see what happens. But what do you think happens to iLLeY from here on?
Honestly, I'm assuming he's probably got a buyout. With the state of the league and how impossible it is to make trades, and hell, let alone buyouts, bro. Like, I mean, you saw the whole fiasco with Pred and Surge and OpTic trying to get him before they made the move for Huke. Like, I just feel like most of these teams either don't want to spend the money to get some of these players that could potentially upgrade their roster, or they just feel like it's just easier to pick up a challenger player because they're basically free. Like, I don't know what the future holds for him. I don't see any team, unless OpTic lets him go because they're like, okay, we don't really need you. We're going to cooperate. Basically, if anyone wants to get you for whatever price, we'll let you go. I don't see him getting on a team the rest of this year, which is sad to say.
Contender, even if they did do that?
No. I mean, no, I don't think he gets on a contender. I mean, as you like to know, the reason why it's so hard for CDL teams and all that stuff to make trades is because essentially every team that's making a trade, they're just basically trying to get rid of their worst player for like somebody's best player. Like, so it never works out. No one ever comes to any of these agreements. I truthfully don't know if iLLeY is going to play the rest of the season. Even though I could see him maybe joining like Legion, like, because I just know he's got a couple people on there he maybe, you know, has a chance with. I don't see him getting on like LAG. I feel like that team is kind of like a tight like group of like players. They won't really go out of their way to get somebody that's not within their comfort zone. Florida's a mess, like, unless they just kind of like a reboot. I don't know. I don't see it happening, which is it's kind of sad, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it just kind of goes to the state of the league, like you said. There's just not a lot of opportunity for players to join contending teams, and then those who are aren't contending basically just have to pay the minimum, and that just goes to kind of the health of the league at the moment. So hopefully that changes so we can get a little bit more competitive from top to bottom. But speaking of one of the bottom teams, and I'm sorry to say this, Vegas picked up 2Real. They looked okay. They beat.
They looked
LAT.
better.
They lost to Toronto. I don't know. I'm so mixed on 2Real. Like, I think he's obviously not a bad player by any means. He has his moments for sure. But then we see, like, you know, this stint on Vanguard with Florida wasn't too great. Comes in, has a terrible first map, and I'm like, oh shit! Like, is it the same person? And he fries the last two maps.
I'm drawing a blank here. Who was their first match?
LAT.
Oh, it was LAT. Oh yeah, dude, the online thieves. We'll talk about LAT Thieves a little bit later, but I just can't fathom what this team does online to LAN, and then on top of that, like, dude, even online they lose to Vegas and they just beat FaZe. So I don't know. But anyways, on the topic of Vegas, I do think that making a change was probably the right move. I think ProLoot was the odd man out in this scenario. I think what Tej brings in Search and Destroy is ultimately what probably kept them like up on the roster instead of like ProLoot. Although ProLoot is also good at Search, I just think that Tej is like damn near the reason they win Search. Like, he's obscene in Search and Destroy.
He's also the reason they lose some respawn.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword with him. So they had to make a change. A lot of people were arguing that 2Real might not be the best person for that. People were looking at like Kremp, who was another person that was rumored to be on that team, or even some people were saying, me specifically, was saying like, oh, if you're gonna bring on like 2Real, bring on iLLeY, because iLLeY and 2Real are kind of like a dynamic duo in challengers that just won. It would probably help them be a little bit more competitive. But where do I start with this team? From watching their matches, it doesn't seem like they've lost the beat in S&D. I think their S&D is still good. I think what hurts them the most is just their small map pool. They have such a tiny map pool. They're auto videoing maps against certain teams, even though they're not even good at the map or mode. They're not like outstanding on it, so they're not playing to like counter anything. It just tells me their map pool is so narrow that even if they like made an upgrade, it's not helping them. Like, I feel like they're almost the same team. Do you not? Like, maybe they're a little bit more competitive, but they're based like it almost did nothing for them. Like, in terms of like, at least in the short term, right? With what we've seen before. So I'm interested to see how when time progresses, if this roster can actually start being competitive and maybe open up their map pool. But I feel like I see them play the same maps every time, and it doesn't even matter if like a team is godlike at the map. They're just like, oh, it's one of our only competitive
They're
maps,
only
so
good
fuck
maps.
it,
Yeah,
play
they
it.
have to play it. Yep.
Yeah, they have to play it, and I think that's like I think that's Vegas's biggest issue. Outside of that, their search and destroy has been, still really good. So I don't know, weird situation. But anyways, if we can't talk about any more roster changes, well, we got another one. Florida Mutineers dropped Major Maniac and dropped Vickle. Well, didn't drop Vickle. They benched Vickle, who's now playing in Challengers.
And Dave Patty.
And they also dropped Dave Patty, no longer on the bench. So Vickle's their only substitute. And they picked up Capsule and they picked up Fellow.
And
Pat.
Brack.
And brought back. Well, brought back.
They've done it all, man.
They've done it all. What are your thoughts on this, Pat?
Dude, my problem with Florida, and it's always been the same thing, is like none of these roster moves midseason make sense to me because they're always just like fixing a horrible offseason. Like every year, like they wait 4 months in after having a terrible offseason move, and then they're like, all right, well, it didn't work. And it's like anyone could have told you these roster moves that you've been doing every offseason wouldn't work. Like at this point, Chris, I'm willing to waive my 3 million over 3 and just help them out in the offseason. Just be like, hey, this is a bad move. This is just do something else because it's every time. It's a horrible move and then they have to fix it. And then I think it's just too late. I think they've missed out to get star power. I don't mind these players. I think Capsule's good. I think Fellow's good. But this is just an 8s team. They don't have a system. They don't play well together. They're just like I could go to any stream and expect these guys to be just picked in 8s on a team without knowing they're a roster.
Yeah,
like that's what they look like. And
that's what it is.
Smoked. They got 6-0 this weekend, 3-0'd by FaZe, 3-0'd by NWSL. Granted, those are two of our probably top 4, top 5 teams, but I don't know. I just have no faith.
I've been said this about all the low end teams. Every time there's an off season, they just miss opportunities because they keep doing this. They're just like, oh, what pros are left over? Let's try to make a roster with random set of pros that weren't good. They're obviously free agents for a reason. And no offense, but you're not FaZe, OpTic, Thieves. You're not a desirable location. So they're just like, who can we get? Okay, let's try to make it work. You're essentially playing 8s. They're literally the captain of the 8s team, and they're just picking the people that are left in the 8s call. Like, it's bad. I've said this on the show on the flank earlier. They need to pick up a system. They need to pick up people that mesh well together, even if it's on the lower end. Challengers, right? They're not playing against the pros. But if they're at the top of the challenger spectrum, it means they have potential and they're working well together because challengers is no joke. It's still competitive as fuck down there, right? So bring on a challenger team, let them play against pro teams, see where they stack. Take the best pieces of those challenger teams and have them make their own changes. They will know what's best. They're doing it completely wrong. The best formulas that have worked so far, it's the Boston project. Hell, even the LAG project has helped. It may not have elevated them to a top team, but it's made them go from last to like competitive. You know what I mean? Like they're just doing it wrong. And I don't understand why they keep doing this. Like if you're gonna make changes in the offseason, your lower end team, please take my advice. I'm giving it to you for free. I'm not asking 3 mil over 3 years like Patrick Price over here.
Hey, that's still a bargain.
But seriously, I don't understand where they're going with this. I do like the players they tried to pick up, like in terms of their individual like talent and like what they could bring to a team. But I just think it's hopeless. Like you don't have a system. You're just throwing in players and trying to hope they mesh. It doesn't do it for me, man.
Yeah. Especially too, Chris, if they're one of the teams that's kind of like floating on this, like we can only pay you the minimum type thing. I don't know their financials. I haven't heard what all their players are on salary wise, but especially if they are one of the lower paying teams, I think they have to go your route. Like, yeah, they can't afford to get the talent that they need to compete. So you might as well pay them in and risk getting a team that might show up. And even if it doesn't show up, you might find a diamond in the rough. You might get 1 or 2 guys that
exactly.
Like, okay, yeah, we can work with this and then build from there. But yeah, the whole like 8s basically like tell in pros.
Pick up a system, bro. Pick up a team that already has an idea of how to play together and has at least shown some form of success. Because at this point, you're just picking up players that no one wanted. There's a reason why no one wanted them.
And you're picking up 4 of them. Not just
Yeah.
one of them. Like you're picking up 4 of them. So like it's
It's hopeless, bro.
it's
It's fucking
questionable.
hopeless.
It's questionable.
My thing is though, obviously these guys still need time to see if they can show some improvements because, like I said, I still like some of the players on the roster, and I feel like they can bring some of these things to the team that they sorely needed, at least in the respawn category. But it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time. So I don't know if they can afford that. Also, oh fuck, I just actually had something that I wanted to actually mention, but now I can't think of it. I'm drawing a blank here. Pat, move us forward with Boston.
For you, Chris. But yeah, like Boston, another roster move. This one, however, was not so much on the team. Methodz obviously decided to retire. We talked a little bit about that. But the team obviously has to fill a roster spot now, and they pick up Beans, who is probably the best player on their academy team. I don't know if there was an argument about that. So far, he's had an interesting kind of debut. He got absolutely world starred the first series, and then absolutely world starred in the second series. They go on to win 2-0 this weekend, and they finally got a map 5 win. I think it's safe to say that Methodz was the one with no ice in the game 5 S&Ds, because now that he is gone, Boston has finally won a map 5. I like this move. I think it's going to help them as a team. Not so much as like a dagger on Zinni. Just I think this will just generally speed up this team a little bit. I think Beans is a bit more of an aggressive player than Zinni naturally is.
He does like to send some chows for sure.
Yeah, he likes to kind of play a little bit different play style than Zinni. So I like it. I think it's a good move. Still, my big complaint always with Boston is like, are they good enough to jump into this upper echelon top 5, top 6 teams that we've kind of set? I think they're on the cusp. They've been on the cusp like a while. So I kind of just want to see if this move can elevate them into where we think that they potentially can get to.
Yeah, I think they're in a pretty ideal situation now with the players that they can attain. Beans was definitely a good pickup for them because I think it solved a couple of their issues. I think their S&D has always been kind of like 50-50, literally 50-50. I feel like they won every second map and they would just lose every game 5. And we actually saw them win a game 5 finally. And all it took was Beans putting up a obscene monster performance in that search and destroy, doing it all, pulling out the AR, pulling out the sniper. The guy is a very good search and destroy player and a very good sniper. And I feel like that whole dynamic is so underrated that a lot of people didn't realize, because prior to that, Vivid was their sniper and he wasn't a very good one, unfortunately, but he's also a playmaker. Vivid's a very aggressive submachine gun player. Having him pull out a sniper and slowing him down in S&D and having Nero basically run around and make all the plays. Like I'm still remembering the like 17 he dropped or something for like the loss, or what was it? Like it was absurd. I can't remember. It was like 14 kills or something, 17. I don't know. Guy had an obscene amount of kills for the loss. I feel like this is just less likely to happen with Beans on the roster. Beans is going to contribute a lot more in that aspect. No offense to Zinni, but also the respawns. I feel like they've been a serviceable respawn team. They've been heralded as one of the best scrim teams in the game, which, as we know, scrims are primarily respawn game modes. So I like the move. I think everyone does. I think everyone sees this team getting a little bit better. In terms of like getting into the higher echelon, higher tier teams. My worry with them is just it's always going to be their inconsistency. I think even though they're good and they're probably some of the better players in the league compared to like some of the bottom teams, I think Nero's consistency and Vivid's consistency in the SMG role is kind of hit or miss in respawn. Nero stepped it up this last weekend, but Vivid still needs to make sure that he's on that consistency as well, because I feel like there's so many maps where they just drop an insane amount of engagements, but it's hit or miss if they're going to go positive or if they're going to go like -10. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they just can't afford to do that if they want to compete in the respawns versus some of these higher echelon teams. But I mean, only time will tell. I think these guys definitely made an upgrade. And out of the roster changes, I probably like this one the most, just because it made like the most sense, obviously. Anyways, so that's enough for the roster changes. So once again, we got Beans joining the Boston Breach. We got Fellow and Cap getting onto the Mutineers. We got Dan Ghosty, the Challenger Phenom, making his way onto the OpTic roster. And we got Too Real making it onto the Vegas Legion. So time will only tell. Actually,
we got one more.
Chris. We do got one more. And this one happened yesterday. So It was close. But Standy was also benched from the Toronto Ultra team. This one I don't agree with, but from like his tweets and some of the other things we saw on Twitter, it just seemed like it was like a personal thing. It didn't really have to do with his individual performance, even though he's been kind of like shaky recently in terms of that. I don't know. There was a lot of drama going on there, and they ended up bringing on Hixie, who was their substitute. Before we touch on the little Standy thing, Hixie's a pretty good challenger player. He had a lot of success on the Toronto Ultra NA Academy team last year in Vanguard with his duo Scrappy. So, I mean, you got to think that Scrappy had probably a decent part in bringing on Hixie onto the roster. They actually did win their match, although it was versus a poor Vegas team today with Hixie. So I'm interested to see how that develops, but at least some strong signs there for the roster moving forward.
Yeah, for me, it's just a lot of questions, right? Like, it was just a weird move. We saw the owner tweet. It obviously contradicted Standy's tweets and what Standy said on stream. There's a few clips floating around out there. I kind of just want to know why. Like, I really want to know why this happened. Like, what was the actual reason behind the scenes that this occurred? We probably aren't going to find that out, but yeah, it was just a weird one. I don't think Standy was in a place where he was playing that bad. Like, to warrant getting dropped. I know they had a few bad games, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if he ever comes back. I would say the roster still looks like we kind of expect Ultra to look. I know they had a little cold streak, but they've been playing well. At least they played well in their match this weekend. So it's going to be interesting. Do you think, Chris, I guess my question is, do you think this will last the entirety of Major 3? Do you think it's like a move for the whole Major?
I think it'll last at least the Major. I think when it comes to personal issues, usually personal issues are something that like really fuck with a team. Because people are, you know how pros are, bro. A lot of pros, especially some of the younger guys, they're kind of petty, and they're just not grown men, bro. They can't hash it out, and a lot of those issues will just like kind of like stick with your team, and they're irreparable at this point. So I don't think they're gonna bring back Standy at least for this entire Major. If they struggle some more, maybe they'll bring him back, but. I mean, it's gonna have to be a quick turnaround because I feel like Standy, at least from the way he was playing on that team before, I feel like he's going to be a pretty coveted a player from some of these other teams if they're willing to kind of like try to like get him.
That's what I was going to ask you though. The problem too with Toronto is they don't let people go. Like we've always talked about this. Toronto likes to kind of hoard the talent for if and when they need a player. It's obviously not like a thing they're doing to harm players' careers or anything like that, but
they're trying to make a return on their investment. It's business.
And but the problem with that, Chris, and that's obviously a good business. The problem with that is in a league where 6, if not 7, 8 of these teams will not pay a buyout or don't even need the change, right? Like you kind of eliminate some that will never pick Standy up, right? They're already set in stone of who they have. And then you look on top of that, who's willing to pay a buyout? That number gets really small. And so I don't know if Standy would find an opportunity anywhere else, at least this year, right? In this season.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
It's always so weird how these roster change situations work because I feel like all these rosters that like he could potentially get on, either some of the players that were weaker start to get better or like the team starts like improving. For example, like prior to like the way they showed out, you know, in their last match, like I could have said maybe Seattle like looks to upgrade him for like Mac. I know Standy teamed with Sib before in Challengers and they had some pretty good success, and maybe those guys look for an upgrade there. Standy's a really good search and destroy player, so like maybe that could help them. But then they go, you know, they turn it around and they win a search and destroy finally, and they look dominant in their series versus Rocker. So that kind of like screws them out there. And then
to be fair, Rocker looked absolutely pitiful,
horrible
in that series. Like I don't know what that team was on in that series.
Yeah. And I don't see him going back to Rocker either. So like to me, the only other team that's like not a lower echelon team, it would be what? LAG. Like they're not like one of the better teams, but they're like at least they have, you know, they have the money, right? So LAG maybe, but then Exceed is the only one on that team that played good versus OpTic, and he was one of their weaker players statistically. So like, I don't know where he would go. I don't know if he would even be interested in joining some of the lower echelon teams. So interesting to see what Standy does and what happens to him. But I mean,
he could get on any challenger team he wanted.
Oh, he said he would play it if like after the major or whatever, like, because I don't think he'll probably get an opportunity pre-major. After the major, if nothing goes through, he'll probably return to challengers and just play there until something shakes up at the in the pro league. But I mean, great player, unfortunate circumstances, but you know, it's a dog eat dog world. Anyways, moving forward, the LAT roster online to LAN. I know we were going to touch on them a little bit when I brought them up versus FaZe, but what the hell do you think it is as to why this team struggles online and like does well on LAN, Pat? Like, what is it?
I don't know, Chris. And then they come out and beat FaZe online. So I don't know if it's just like a massive mental hurdle of them just playing against teams that they feel like they're better than, but know they're at a connection disadvantage or something like that because of where they're all living in LA. It sounds like in their listen-ins, they're playing with the same level of effort and energy. I don't think it's necessarily that. The one thing I would say is a lot of these guys on this team, I know age-wise they're young, but like experience-wise and accomplishment-wise, they're kind of veterans, right? Like you look at Octane and Kenny, even Envoy to an extent. Drazah is really the only like not rookie, but you know what I mean, like younger, less experienced.
He's the newer generation player for sure.
Maybe it's just like they're kind of at a point where like LAN just naturally to them is a way different environment, and online it's harder to take as serious. I really don't know.
I think I know what it is, man.
What do you think?
It's gotta be the game cheese, bro. The loud so for those of you guys that don't like super follow competitive or aren't hardcore players, there's just so many mechanics in this Call of Duty and things that players are doing that just completely ruin the competitive integrity of the game. And one, in fact, actually just changes completely how online is played and LAN is played, because one of these settings, for example, is just not allow it on LAN. It's easy to monitor. They can disable it on the LAN PCs, at the home PCs when people are obviously not being monitored by the CDLs and the refs and all that stuff. People can easily turn the setting on. The setting is called loudness equalization, and what it does is it equalizes the levels of different noises. So, for example, it'll raise the low sounds up, but it will quiet down the high sounds. So things like gunshots and stuff like that will sound less like, you know, intrusive, but footsteps get raised significantly. So online, what that does is it just changes the game. Like people are basically can't flank. If you don't have dead silence active, you basically can't move. And I feel like at least for Thieves, this probably impacts them a lot. I've said this before, but Thieves are really aggressive. Like for the most part, Kenny, Envoy, and Drazah are super aggressive players. And when they're being heard by across the map by some of these players that are playing with this loudness EQ, it's definitely going to hurt them. The reason why you see them play FaZe better is because FaZe has openly came out and basically said they're not using this setting at all. So FaZe is technically putting themselves at a disadvantage, at least online, and while LA Thieves are taking advantage of it. So it probably sways some of these situations in their favor. If you guys, it's a huge difference. If you've never actually played with it on, you guys don't know what you're missing out. Don't put it on though. Screw you if you do. But basically, I think that's probably one of the main things, Pat. I just think we're playing two different games right now. That plus the snaking and like the staircase, like glitching, like there's just so many things right now that is ruining the competitive integrity of the game. No one wants to be the best player at Call of Duty now. People just want to like abuse mechanics to get wins.
Well, they also think that like to them at least, like abusing it, there's no difference, right? Like abusing it and succeeding is becoming the best player, because nowadays I think it's, you know, being the best player is just about what the finished result is, not how you got there. And it kind of used to be a little different. I think it's what you were getting at before. It was like we could, and I'm talking like years ago when the games necessarily didn't have this type of cheesy stuff. At least people weren't trying to abuse it, even if it was there. Like you were looked at as like, you know, abusing the game. And nowadays
you were looked at as, quite frankly, a bitch.
Yeah, and nowadays
let's not sugarcoat it.
We glorify this, right? Like good play, like and it's
good snakes, up. Good form.
Yeah. There's a lot of things we like gas up, and taking advantage of an abusive mechanic is glorified, and I think that's a core issue. Obviously, the main issue here is the fact that it's allowed in general, right? Like on the developer side, this is something. It's a bug. This is clearly an unintended bug that should be addressed at the developer level. And we kind of know now that's just not going to happen. But I do think there is some responsibility on players to just come together and say, like, look, guys, like all of us can objectively agree this is a cheesy mechanic. It's a cheesy play style. We need to get back to, like, you know, being the best is being the best. But the problem with that is obviously how much money is on the line, how much money is on the line, not only prize money, but salary. Like, it's just a hard combo because there's a ton of bias involved. But I agree with you. I mean, I hate it. I don't know any viewers that enjoy watching it. And to me, you know what makes me realize, Chris, that we've gone so past like caring and that we've normalized it all. It's when like the casters glorify it too. Like before, when cheesy stuff happened back in the past, like you could tell casters would just literally try and ignore that happening on broadcast. Observers would try and ignore it. But now we go third person camera. We're staring at the like the couch on hotel, the diner, just watching people snake, and casters are gassing it up. Like,
yeah, it's like every time somebody's doing some like cheesy ass mechanic or abusing something, like, dude, even Shotzzy was shooting through an entire map and killing a guy off bomb, and they were highlighting it. I'm like, this is a bug.
Yeah,
this is not intended.
Bug, yeah.
And like, hey, props to him for knowing that. And I'm not saying that he's at fault for it. He's just playing the game that, you know, is handed to him. I'm just saying, like, these things need to be fixed, man. Like, there's got to be something. The loudness equalization, I get it. You can't really monitor it. There should be a way to. I suggested they do monitor cams where people literally have to go and show that it's off and play their match. And obviously, there's a camera staring at their screen the entire time, making sure they can't fiddle it.
Chris, there's no more honor in Call of Duty anymore.
There isn't. There isn't at the pro level, man. Even at, dude, even challengers. I have been
worse. There's never.
I have been finding a way. I've been trying so hard to find a way to disable it or monitor it. And when I thought I found a way, this way that logs everything that you do on your computer. For example, like you can go to the device playback manager and it would log every time you go into playback manager and try to edit stuff. So for example, I tried to get that going, but then I just realized you can turn off the log and there's no like way to turning the log off. So like you can't know if people are hiding it. So I was just like, oh, this is a never ending battle, dude. I think I lost and I just gave up. But, anyways, to basically round off the show, we're going to kick it to some community questions that our producer James rounded up before the show. We're going to start with the first one. One player you wish you teamed with that you never did, Pat. Who is it?
Shit, bro. I've teamed with a lot of people. I
feel like you teamed with like damn near every like good player in the era.
But pre 2020, I definitely teamed with almost.
I'm trying to think. Like you've teamed with Karma, you teamed with Krim, you teamed with Clay.
It would have been interesting to play with Big T back in the day.
Did you team with Formal?
No,
don't think you did.
No, I didn't. No. That
would have been a pretty good shout.
I think my answer would be Big T though.
Back in
the day, like
back in the day, the OG
W2. Yeah, I feel like me and Big T would have had some laughs, and obviously a lot of dubs. What about you?
I think mine would probably be Krim. Never got to team with him.
No,
we've always been
we've
always been good friends, and I feel like we thought about the game very similarly, and I don't know, we've always had great discussions. But like outside of that, I feel like I damn near teamed with every like veteran that I've ever wanted to. Oh, Scump too. Definitely never teamed with Scump, but me and him were never on the best terms anyway. So
who got Scump his first victory ever?
He did. He played the game and won it.
That would be me.
Whatever. All right. So yeah, moving on to the next question.
Already know my answer.
Who's the most underrated Call of Duty player of all time?
It's Miracles. No question.
Miracles?
Yeah, it's no question. It's Mir.
I think it's Apathy. Bro, Apathy won 2 world championships.
App is not underrated.
Wait, listen. App won. Listen to me.
Guy is a top 10 player.
Wait, hold on. Apathy won 2 world championships, and if you look at a lot of players, like, or a lot of like people's like top 10 all-time players, App is like not on there a lot of the time.
App might be fan underrated, but I think App is highly respected from the pro player community.
It's respected and rated is different, bro.
Bro,
I feel like
I got App top 10 all time. I
okay, you do. You
Listen,
do.
there's
I'm
no
not
one
saying
that-
a lot of people don't, bro.
I feel like there's no one that underrates App from pro level though. Like at players.
I don't
Like, if
know.
you-
I feel
if
like
you
a lot
went
of
to,
people
like,
did.
If you took like a Hall of Fame question, App's an instant run. Like he's instantly in. I feel like if you ask the majority of players that played against App in like the 2011 to 2019, 2020, App's easily at worst top 15 players would have him there. I think the reason App gets looked at maybe underrated is because like Simp and Abizi and Celium and Arcitys are doing what they're doing, and they're like, you know, they're getting on that cusp of top 10. They're starting to like push that combo out just because App's on like the bottom edge of that top 10, right? But
Yeah, makes sense.
Bro, App's godlike. App was always an insane.
I think
player.
another good shout would probably be like Enabor Slacked, simply because I feel like those guys had a lot of success. They weren't superstars on their teams, but those guys had a lot of success. Enable finishing second at 2 world championships in a row. That's got to be a heartbreaker.
First one, Ian.
And Slacked basically won like a tournament in every single title like that I think he ever competed in for the most part. So I feel like a lot of those guys don't get looked at because they're just not stars, right?
You know,
so
you know who else actually might, and I think it's Cap.
Nah, Cap is rated, bro, because Cap won 2 world championships again.
But think about it. People look at Cap in a way that's like
Cap is similar to App.
No,
in terms of the
hold on. Cap is
accomplishments.
because but accomplishments aside, how people look at Cap as a skill level, like I feel like people give App way more respect in terms of skill level. People look at Cap like he was just along for the ride. No bullshit.
Yeah.
I feel like people look at Cap like that. Like you gotta think, BO1, MW2, Cap was that guy. BO2, Cap was still kind of that guy. Ghost, he might not have been as much that guy in terms of slaying. That also happens with who you team with, right? And going to 2015,
AW, yeah, he's on a world championship team. Yeah.
Granted, I'm gonna have to call this out. Cap had the double stun, mid-air stun cheese. He detonated the stuns mid-air. So I have to call him out on that. But like BO3, so I think Cap's also a good shout for under.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, next question. What was your favorite competitive meta of all time?
Is this game like? Are we picking one game, or are we picking like the guns? Like,
gun and game, like, because different games. It's BO2.
It's any game with a burst gun will always be the best meta. I've always said this. Automatic ARs cannot be the best meta because when you look at a competitive balance in a game, like unless the SMGs are OP, then like the automatic ARs versus the automatic subs are always kind of like, it's kind of cheesy almost, like just by default. I think burst weapons, look at BO2, look at BO3. I think burst weapons are needed to be in the meta even somewhat to make the meta, in my opinion, the most competitive, because it's a different style. Like strafe speed and a burst weapon to me will always win. And a fast
for me,
fire time sub. Oh,
for me, it's BO2, but it wasn't necessarily because of the guns. I love the perk and tactical meta. Bro, every map was an evolving meta. It never was the same. It's not like in this game where it's like one person runs trophy, one person runs dead silence, one person runs stun, one person run a nade. Like it was one of those things where it's like you used to have to change your perks and your loadout based on what the other team was running. If you realized they weren't running stuns, you took off tac mask.
My BO2 classes, bro, were Simtex, stun, and then a stacked perk class. Depending on
I used to
hardwired class.
I used to use 100%. Oh, hold on, wait, I'm gonna sneeze. I used to use every single one of my classes in a map.
Yeah, granted, we only had 5. Nowadays,
nowadays, Pat, people make one class and they will use it for the entire year
because they don't have to switch anything. Well, think the perk system nowadays, I'll be honest, the perk system nowadays is horrible. It's horrible. It's
horrible. But also, I think outside of that, the meta of the game was so like, people won't realize being good in that game was hard. And I'll tell you why. Because so you know how you guys, everyone complains about not having red dots and all that stuff, and how it makes the game hard. Not not having red dots and not being able to see your mini, and like the mini map not really being any like usefulness. Well, guess what? There was a throwable in the game that basically turned off your awareness.
I actually looked this up, Chris. Do you know how long the EMP lasted?
It was like 10 seconds.
12 seconds.
12 seconds.
You were without a mini map for 12 seconds.
That's a long time.
That's
and so you want to know what that did was you couldn't always get away with just looking at the mini map, paying attention to the red dots, having casual communication, because you were constantly getting your HUD turned off, which basically meant you actually had to be aware of where your teammates are, what they're doing, communicating effectively.
How you to set up on a hill. If you
actually having setups.
Your teammate died, like what spot you had to fill to make sure you didn't get broken.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You didn't have kill cams and stuff. You didn't have kill cams. You didn't have kill feeds when you got EMP and stuff. You lost it all. So if your teammates died, let's say he's behind you watching your back and he died, you wouldn't even know. Obviously, you would still have.
You didn't know who had control of the hill. You didn't know how.
You would still have sound cues. You would still have sound cues and stuff like that. But the fact that your HUD elements and stuff like that could be taken out at any time made it so you actually had to have godlike communication and have a really good understanding of what your goal was, what you needed to watch, and all that stuff. And people don't realize that, man. It was so big
back then. Your tactical usage was so important because not everyone could. You couldn't avoid an EMP, a stun, a frag. Like you could, or a Simtex mostly. You couldn't avoid all of those as one player, right? You had to pick. Did you want task smash? Did you want hardwire? Did you want flak jacket? And so tactical throw usage was also super important. Trophy players, their placement was super important because you had to put your trophies in a place that also weren't like susceptible to EMPs, right? Like think about raid, like you couldn't just lazy throw your trophy at the front of kitchen because it would just get EMP through the wall. Like there was a lot of just meta, like how you had to think about the game, how you had to perfect your play style in almost everything that you did, no matter who you were on the team. Like you couldn't just be lazy. And nowadays I feel like everyone can kind of be lazy. Like you just
Bro,
the game is on auto. Like that's
you couldn't just throw a trophy down and know it was going to protect you. You had to throw them in good spots.
You had to get shot instantly.
It could get shot in one shot. You could EMP it through the wall. Like people that use the EMPs couldn't just like they actually had to pay attention where they were throwing them, and like you would know like, okay, we're about to hit this hill. I got to bank an EMP off this wall so it blows up any trophies in the hill.
Godlike, so you like had to play your life. You couldn't feed people. Nowadays you can feed anyone because streaks are horrible. Like you could not, bro. If you fed streaks on a player, like if there was a player that was close, you knew he was in the hill. Bro, back then you got hella points for getting a kill when you're in the hill. Like that's how people like ran streaks up like quickly. You had to be aware of it. Every player on the team, you couldn't feed. You couldn't feed in any situation because if you fed the next rotation, if you fed a streak, you're instantly getting broken. Like a lightning strike, hellstorm, you're getting broken. If someone was aware of how to use those effectively, you're getting broken. So I think the question is BO2. I also don't know if Treyarch did it on purpose. They may have gotten lucky because BO2 was a perfect storm because the meta also perfectly fit the spawn system in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a godlike game. 100% the best meta.
If you missed out on BO2 and you're a player interested in competitive FPS in general, you missed out on an awesome time. So I would definitely recommend going 100%. Back and just watching some of those games because it was an entirely different thing.
All right, Pat, another question. If we are both in our peaks in competitive Call of Duty, the best we've ever been, what team are you joining right now and who are you replacing? And I know you're a flex player, so you have the option of replacing a sub player or an AR. I could
really do it all, though. I could really do it all. Who would I
in your peak? What's your peak? Ghost? SMG? Probably?
I don't know. I think statistically I was better in Ghost, but I actually think I was the best I've ever been. No bullshit in MW2. I think MW2 I was the best I've ever been. Which is crazy because it was obviously still my like younger time. But like if you go back, I just think I was so far ahead in MW2, especially, and not discrediting my teammates, but like the teams that I had in that game versus like some of the top teams back then. Like I feel like I was doing a lot on the map back then. But yeah, we can go with Ghost. We can go with just like Ghost BO2 era because I was kind of the same thing. It was Flex SMG. But if I had to replace somebody nowadays, so we're talking about CDL era, right? CDL teams.
Yeah. You can't join phase.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think either of us should say phase just because. And I'm trying to win it all. I'm trying to win it all.
Yeah.
Can I make a roster change with me joining the team?
Sure.
Okay, I'm joining Seattle for Mac, and I'm also making a roster change for Lamar, and I'm picking up BO2 Parasite, and we're winning it all. We're winning it all.
Yes, let's go. I'm down. Wait, that's actually a good one. I was actually gonna. I was gonna say. I don't even know what I was gonna say now that I think about it. But I feel like, yeah, I'd probably join Seattle for Lamar just because I mean, like if I'm not saying now, like, when I was at my peak, I was a fucking godlike assault rifle player. Let me tell you that. And I mean, Lamar statistically at least, I was a good. Wait, hold on. Not only was I good.
Wait, we'd be good at
AR player.
We would be good
I was I was good at every mode, but I was also a good leader. Like when I was that guy, bro, I was that guy. Like I was a fucking nerd. We were
both in our peaks too. We were both probably like, granted, we were very good at respawn. We were probably both very incredibly
like
good
one,
at
like one, also, but like 1 and 2 leader, bro. Like back in the day.
But S&D, like think about our team. Like, bro, we get Pred, bro. If I'm playing with Pred, he's getting first blood every life. literally every life. No, we actually might.
Your Pred mag, go here, bait for him.
We actually might win it all.
Yeah, no cap.
Sib Pred, if we were in our primes.
If we were in our primes, 100%. Not even close. Okay. Wait 1 second. Next question.
Seattle's gonna get tight when they listen to this. But.
Yeah, probably. Number 5, or our next question. Sorry. If all stars were tomorrow, what 4 best play?
I think if the all-star, like if the all-stars.
If the all-stars were tomorrow,
yeah, all-star weekend.
What 4 best players in the league right now?
Cell, Pred, Hydra, and fuck. Cell, Pred, maybe a BZ, bro. BZ's been gross recently.
I was gonna say Cell, Hydra.
You got to give it to Pred, bro. That guy's still dropping 1.6s. He's
Cell, Hydra, Pred.
Right
If Octane keeps up his form, I might say Octane. Because Octane has been gross for the Thieves. He's been absurd.
Their whole team is good. I feel like
I know, but Sam's been absurd lately. He actually just popped off his phase. I don't know. That's a hard question. I feel like the last option.
Austin, though.
I feel like the last option is kind of up for grabs, or the last like name. I feel like Cell, Hydra, Pred.
Do you not think it's a BZ, bro?
I want to say a BZ based on his last performance.
Is insane. We have to view all game modes equally.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're 25 kills ahead of all players in the league in first bloods, like that's insane.
Yeah, it's got to be a BZ. Okay, last question before we go to pickups and we round out the show.
I gotta answer this one, bro. Worst competitive meta of all time. There's multiple games.
Wait, hold on. That's not the question we're answering.
No.
Also, go ahead. Let's just throw it in.
It's multiple games tied for the worst. It's Modern Warfare 2. It's Vanguard.
What was Modern Warfare 2?
2019. This game, bro.
Oh, this game, yeah.
This game, yeah. It's Vanguard. It's IW, and then it's COD 3. All tied equally.
Oh, nah.
Yeah.
Worst competitive meta of all time? Ghost.
What?
Bro, you love that game.
MTAR
Ghost was fine.
Yeah, MTAR Ghost was godlike.
Vector Remington Ghost was fucking dog shit.
That's because 8 months after I was just absolutely having my way with the whole scene, they had to change the gun meta.
And then also BO2 foul meta was horrible.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I was abusing it. It was horrible.
Dude, honestly, no. Actually, BO2 single shot foul wasn't as bad as BO2 auto foul for the first.
Remember that? I didn't even use it.
Oh, bro, because no one did. And then Big T showed up to UMG Chicago, and we were pre-patch, and he was playing with the fucking BO2 auto foul cheese.
Actual cheese, bro. I can't believe it.
The cheesiest meta of all time. I won't be told otherwise.
All right, last question. If we were pros in any other game, what game would it be for you? Go ahead.
I'm gonna say the one game that I will not be able to go pro in, Chris. It's gonna be X Defiant.
No, I'm saying if what?
Be
No,
a developer and
no, that's not what I'm
play
saying though. If
competitively.
you were able to be a pro in any other game, like established esport right now, what would it be?
Counter-Strike. There's no question. Every FPS player would say Counter-Strike.
I think I would say Counter-Strike too. I don't even play the game. I literally have never played it, but I watch the tournaments and wow, that shit is fucking good.
At any skill level, you could be, I don't know what their lowest is. Is it not, maybe it's silver? I don't know their lowest rank in Counter-Strike. I've never been there.
It might be gold or silver, yeah.
Regardless of what skill level you are, you could just watch Counter-Strike and want to be a pro in that game. That game, it just, I don't know what it does about CS, but it's an easy question. I think it's everyone. If you've ever been an FPS fan and you were born before the year 2000, your answer is Counter-Strike.
It's the most skilled shooter. Ever. And it's not like one of those like games where like you abuse movement mechanics and obviously you still have gun skill. It's like just raw like.
It's incredibly high IQ too.
It's raw aim and incredibly high IQ, bro. You have people have been playing the same maps for years and they're still coming up with new shit. Imagine like, bro, in Call of Duty you can't do that. You know everything about the damn game outside of abusive shit that like glitches, right? Unintended stuff. You know everything about the game by the 6th month of the game or like the 5th month. I don't know. Counter-Strike is just a different breed of FPS, man.
Also,
seriously,
the best controller of all time is the Xbox 360, and there's absolutely zero debate about it. I won't ever listen to any conversation about it.
Xbox 360, definitely not the Xbox One. Anyways, that's gonna do it for our community questions. If you guys have any more questions for us, make sure you guys comment in the comments, obviously, and we'll pick some out and answer them in the next episode. But that's pretty much gonna wrap it up for the show. The last thing we have to do is our pick'ems for the week. What?
There's no way that you have OpTic beating Ultra.
Yes, I do. Ultra's broken right now. OpTic is rejuvenated.
Ultra is going to have the Game 5 ice. And you know why? Because Scrappy doesn't deal with shit stains, Chris.
All right, listen, man. OpTic is beating Ultra. That's my pick.
Chris,
clearly, Pat.
Ultra is winning 3-2.
Clearly, Pat thinks that Ultra's going to win.
Bro, I don't see. Think about it this way, Chris. Let's be objective here. OpTic just went Game 5. And yeah, they won convincingly. But Huke went 14-1. That's not happening again. And they were playing LAG, and they arguably could have lost 3-1. So
that's fine. Ultra got fucking. Actually, no, it wasn't Ultra.
No,
I'm fried.
Ultra won today. Ultra's won. No, listen, Ultra's coming out hot. They're winning 3-2, and they're beating OpTic. Next series is Seattle versus LAT. This one's going to be interesting because I don't know what to think of either of these two teams online. I also have no faith that Seattle is back. I'm gonna go Thieves.
Nah, you said everything that goes up must come down and then must go up again is what you said, or something like that.
It's not happening in this series, Chris, because LAT is a better team across the board, and Seattle got their win against maybe the worst Minnesota Rocket team I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I said I had no faith in picking Seattle in any series until they can finally win a search and destroy. I'm gonna give them some credit here, and I'm gonna say, hey, they finally won a search and destroy. I'm gonna pick them to win the series. Just for the hell of it. I think when Seattle is playing their Call of Duty, their insane pred and sib stats and a lot of stuff, these guys are obviously a good team. They got second at the first major. If they're going to continue up on this trend, this major, Pat, following your footsteps here, I'm going to say they're going to beat the Thieves. And our final match is our battle between Boston and LAG. Boston. Not even close. LAG just has looked terrible.
LAG is not even snaking, bro. In this era.
Yeah, dude. Alec, you got to snake those. But anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the show. Thank you guys all for watching. Make sure that you guys subscribe to the channel because of we still got the jersey giveaway to do. And if you guys don't want to miss out an episode, make sure you guys click that button.
Imagine winning the giveaway but not being subscribed and we have to re-roll?
That would be despair.
That would be horrible.
I don't even know if
So
that's possible. Aren't we rolling
it
with
is
only
possible.
subs? Oh God.
I don't
That would
know.
be
No,
unfortunate.
we're gonna pick based on comment, and then
Oh yeah,
if
true,
the commenter
true.
isn't subscribed, then they're ineligible. So make sure
They
you
lost.
subscribe. Don't miss out on that just because you forgot to click the subscribe button. And if you're there, you're clicking the subscribe button, Chris, they might as well go ahead and click the notification button to get
Facts.
notified for every time a new episode of Reverse Sweep goes live on a Monday after a CDL weekend. Thank you all so much for watching. We will see you next time. Sorry James wasn't here. I know a ton of you love James in the comments. He will be here next time, and then eventually we'll have Doug back when we go to Major 3 for OpTic Texas, but we're just getting started. We'll see you next week. Take it easy.